Good evening. Tonight we begin with a situation that continues to demand the world's urgent attention. Hopes for a lasting ceasefire in Gaza are once again hanging by a thread. Reports emerging just hours ago indicate that truce talks have stalled, and tragically this has been accompanied by a new wave of airstrikes. The human cost, as always, is devastating, and the path to peace appears more fraught than ever. We'll bring you the latest on these developments, the international reactions, and the desperate humanitarian situation on the ground. Let's get started. Our focus shifts now to Washington, D.C., a city perennially at the center of global diplomacy. An Indian parliamentary delegation is currently in the U.S. Capitol, reinforcing strategic partnerships and discussing security cooperation. The timing of this visit is made all the more intriguing by the concurrent arrival of a Pakistani delegation in Washington. The presence of both South Asian neighbors, often at odds, in the same city at the same time inevitably heightens the diplomatic tension. Observers are keenly watching for any subtle shifts in tone or policy that might emerge from these parallel engagements. Both India and Pakistan are vying for influence and support, and Washington becomes the arena where these competing narratives are presented. The stakes, as always, are incredibly high. Turning to East Asia, we're seeing a significant diplomatic overture. Japan's Prime Minister, Shigeru Ishiba, has publicly vowed to energize cooperation with South Korea under its new president Lee Jae-myung. This signals a potentially pivotal moment for two nations whose relationship has often been strained by the heavy weight of history. The importance of this renewed commitment to cooperation cannot be overstated, especially when viewed against the current geopolitical landscape of Northeast Asia. Enhanced trilateral cooperation with the United States is also a key factor, as Washington has been actively encouraging its two key allies in the region to mend fences and work more closely on security and economic fronts. While historical sensitivities will undoubtedly remain, the emphasis from Prime Minister Ishiba on energizing ties suggests a proactive approach. The world will be watching to see if this rhetoric translates into tangible progress. In Europe, a notable shift in fiscal and defense posture is underway. Denmark, long known as one of the frugal EU member states advocating for budgetary restraint, is now signaling a significant change in its approach. Copenhagen appears ready to abandon its traditional stance on the European Union's budget to bolster collective defense capabilities in response to the ongoing threat posed by Russia. This potential pivot from Denmark carries considerable implications for the EU's defense policy and its complex budget negotiations. If a traditionally frugal nation is prepared to allocate more resources towards collective security, it could create momentum for other member states to follow suit. The move also highlights the evolving understanding of what national and European security entails in the 21st century. The upcoming EU budget discussions will be a critical test of this newfound resolve and unity. From the high seas, a story of innovation and environmental promise. Latin America's very first all-electric tugboat has embarked on an ambitious 45-day voyage, traveling from its construction site in Turkey to its new home port in Chile. The Z-Tug represents a significant step forward in decarbonizing a sector traditionally reliant on heavy fossil fuels. Ports are major sources of pollution, and tugboats contribute significantly to emissions in these sensitive coastal areas. An all-electric tug like this one promises zero emissions during operation, leading to cleaner air in port cities and a reduction in the maritime industry's carbon footprint. This pioneering project could serve as a catalyst for further green maritime initiatives across Latin America and globally. The success of this electric tugboat will be closely watched, potentially paving the way for wider adoption and inspiring further innovation in green shipping technology. Circling back to South Asia, the diplomatic offensive with the Indian and Pakistani delegations in Washington is just one facet of a broader, intricate dance playing out across the region. Nations throughout South Asia are engaged in a continuous series of bilateral and multilateral engagements. These efforts are aimed at addressing a complex web of issues, from border disputes and water sharing to trade relations and counter-terrorism cooperation. The intensity of these diplomatic activities reflects the region's strategic importance and its inherent volatility. Countries are constantly reassessing their alliances and rivalries, influenced by both internal pressures and the shifting dynamics of global power. The potential impact of these efforts is immense. Successful diplomacy could unlock vast economic potential and improve the lives of millions. The dialogue, however challenging, must continue. Now let's turn our attention to Southeast Asia, where Malaysia is positioning itself as a key player in the region's technological advancement. The country is set to host two significant events: the Smart City Expo, Kuala Lumpur, in 2025, and an ASEAN summit focused on artificial intelligence. These initiatives signal Malaysia's ambition to be at the forefront of urban innovation and the burgeoning digital economy within the ASEAN bloc. The Smart City Expo aims to bring together experts, innovators, and policymakers to explore solutions for sustainable urban development. For a rapidly urbanizing region like Southeast Asia, the development of smart cities is a practical necessity to manage growth, improve quality of life, and ensure environmental sustainability. Furthermore, the planned ASEAN Summit on AI highlights the growing recognition of artificial intelligence as a transformative technology. Malaysia is clearly eager to facilitate these important conversations. We revisit East Asia now, with a deeper look at the statements made by Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba. His declared intent to energize cooperation with South Korea under its new president, Lee Jae-myung, is a significant development that warrants further examination. The historical context, as always, looms large. Decades of unresolved grievances, particularly concerning Japan's actions during its colonial occupation of Korea, have periodically flared up, derailing attempts at closer partnership. Prime Minister Ishiba's proactive stance suggests a recognition that the strategic benefits of closer Japan-South Korea cooperation may now outweigh the political risks associated with tackling these difficult historical issues. The international community, especially the United States, which relies on both nations as key allies, will be hoping that this renewed diplomatic energy translates into concrete steps. A more stable and collaborative future in Northeast Asia is the goal. Shifting our focus to China, the economic giant continues to navigate a complex path as it aims for an ambitious 5% GDP growth target for the upcoming year, 2025. This goal is set against a backdrop of persistent global trade tensions, a slowing global economy, and significant domestic challenges. Achieving this target will require a concerted effort and skillful policy maneuvering from Beijing. The strategies China is employing include continued state-led investment in infrastructure and strategic industries, efforts to boost domestic consumption, and measures to stabilize the real estate market. There's a strong emphasis on technological self-sufficiency and innovation, particularly in high-tech sectors. The success of these strategies is critical, not just for China, but for the global economy. The pursuit of this 5% target will be a defining economic story of the year ahead. We turn now to a deeply concerning report from Sudan. Human Rights Watch has released damning findings, accusing the Sudanese armed forces of using unguided airdropped bombs in densely populated residential and commercial areas of Nyala, the capital of South Darfur. These attacks, according to the report, occurred between July and September of last year, resulting in civilian casualties and widespread destruction. The use of such indiscriminate weapons in urban settings is a serious violation of international humanitarian law. The Human Rights Watch report meticulously documents the aftermath of these bombings, citing witness testimonies, satellite imagery analysis, and photographic evidence. The organization is calling for an immediate end to such attacks, and for targeted sanctions to be imposed on individuals and entities responsible for these grave violations. The international community faces renewed pressure to act decisively to protect civilians and ensure accountability for war crimes. Finally, a story of innovation from Australia with potentially global implications for how we manage energy. Brisbane-based Red Earth Energy Storage has just announced a significant international partnership. They're teaming up with Ambibox, a German specialist in EV charging, and Nebula Electronics, a Chinese battery technology manufacturer. Their ambitious goal? To develop a residential microgrid-in-a-box solution, a compact system designed to give homeowners greater energy independence. This microgrid-in-a-box concept aims to integrate solar power generation, battery storage, and smart energy management into a single user-friendly package. The potential impact of such a technology could be transformative, particularly in areas with unreliable grid infrastructure or for homeowners seeking to reduce their carbon footprint. If successful and scalable, this microgrid-in-a-box could empower individuals and communities to take control of their energy future. And that brings us to the end of tonight's World Wrap. From the precarious situation in Gaza to the diplomatic tightropes being walked in Washington and East Asia, and the pressing human rights concerns emerging from Sudan, it's clear we live in a world of constant flux. The challenges are immense, multifaceted, and often interconnected, demanding not just our attention, but our understanding and, where possible, our collective action. Yet, amidst these complexities, we also see sparks of ingenuity and hope. Denmark's potential shift in European defense thinking, the pioneering voyage of an all-electric tugboat destined for Chile, Malaysia's drive towards a smarter AI-powered future, and Australia's innovative approach to residential energy. These stories remind us of humanity's capacity to adapt, innovate, and strive for a better future. The world is a complex place, and staying informed is more critical than ever. Thank you for joining me.